I'm going to talk about something that I found to be really interesting over the years, and it's something that most people probably miss and don't realize, that when shops change, and they actually change quite frequently. So on Church Street, you get about 5 businesses a year changing, and that's been the trend since about the 1890s. It's nothing new, trust me, it's been going on for a long time. But the most exciting thing for me when it happens is that when you get the builders and the shop fitters coming and they take the existing sign, sometimes you find that there's an older sign underneath it waiting to be revealed. That's not it. The actual sign there was this one, Art for Stone, Furniture. And I was walking with a friend and I was just noticing from the corner of my eye the guy with the ladder, and I sprinted. He thought there was an accident, he thought I was in danger, but I just told him, look, I actually saw someone taking an old sign and I had to document it. Because if you wait 10 minutes, or if someone just texts you and says, ooh, you know, they're kind of revealing an old sign, by the time you get there, it's gone. It's gone because either it was replaced and covered, or maybe they took it down and it's now in the skip. It happens all the time. And I think it's always a tragedy because these are relics from the past. It gave us this sort of glimpse into what this shop used to be. And you start wondering, when was this shop? Was it in the 60s, the 70s? You start trying to analyze the typeface and the names. And because of my extensive research into the history of all the shops in Church Street, it's usually fairly easy to just flick through the book or look through one of the plaques and trace those businesses. It's quite rarely on the street. So you can see there, Arthur Stone, furniture dealer in the 50s all the way to the 70s. If we're lucky, sometimes they're kind of retained. So there's a few local examples where the sign was uncovered at some point, and whether it's the residents, if it's now a residential property, decided to retain it, like in Allen Road, or in Petherton Road, there's a restaurant, but this is their sign. So they actually kept the original sign, and that's great, because it's a little museum. Now the question is, how do you find out about all these signs? You know, you can't be everywhere at the same time. I'm very lucky, because after doing this for 13 years, there's a whole network of people, and they don't even know it, but they all are informants. And when there's a sighting, I get a WhatsApp, a DM on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, email, whatever, and these are them saying, ooh, in case you haven't noticed, in Green Lanes right now, this old sign was just uncovered. Come and have a look. And if I don't get that, if I'm lucky, I'll see it myself, but this is highly effective. And this talk is also a recruitment event. So next time you walk past and you see someone on a ladder taking down a modern sign, don't assume that I know, because I got like the red phone that starts sort of ringing, and then I'm on my way. But it's really great. So what I want to do in this talk is just take you through a few examples, more sort of in depth, and then I'm going to show some many other examples that were sort of uncovered in the last few years. The first one is in Church Street, 165, and this one is for a shop called Netta. So this is the bike shop on Church Street that I'm sure all of you are familiar with. But a few weeks ago, when they were taking down the existing sign, they revealed this beauty. So again, this was sent to me, and you can see, so this was actually, you're going to hear in a minute, this was glass, so it's painted on black glass, and you can see the builder is trying to remove it, it's cracking, and it's breaking, unfortunately. And by the time these photos were sent, you can see that it broke, but also you can see that there was actually an older one just behind it. And that's quite common, because sometimes they just updated the sign, but they just put it on the old one. So Netta has 2 layers. This is the view of the shop front, with kind of Netta just waking up, you know, after decades of being hidden underneath all these modern signs, coming to say hello. And it's really amazing when you start looking closely into the artistry and looking at the brushstrokes and looking at what the signwriters did and how they, you know, whether it's the numbers and all the different effects that they used to make these signs very vivid. So who was Netta? What is Netta? Again, if you look at the history of the shop, you can see that in the 40s and the 50s, there was a Mrs. Netta Davy, and she had a knitting wool shop, and then she was a draper. Okay, and this is the souvenir that she left us after all these years. It's really great when I post these photos and then people recognize the shops and then they share some memories. And it really brings those signs to life because you realize it's not just a piece of painted wood or glass, but for some people that was something that they went and visited every day or on the way to school, or their parents used to go there. It's part of their history. So the question is, what happens to those signs? That sign was about to get discarded and go into the bin. But luckily, Tony, raise your hand, he thought, I'm not going to let that happen. I'm going to save the sign. So I just happened to walk past and I saw Tony just dangling from a ladder trying to scoop these two pieces of the Netta sign, and we're able to get it into his car. Actually, yes. Obviously, you don't have a van for this. He actually took it to the lovely studio just in the Mews where the post office is, and turned that lovely sign into a little sort of work of art, if you like. So they gave it a bit of a treatment, you're going to see here, because again, it was quite big, but they cut it into several pieces. Tony actually brought one of them with him this evening. So at the very front, you can see the 165. I'll try and pick it up. It's quite heavy. I hope it doesn't break. That's going to be such a fail video. Ooh. So the starting bid starts at 200. Yeah. There you go. So Tony has that. I think one of them is going to go to the bike shop. And he was so kind because I helped him drag it to his car that he gave me this little piece. So I've got a piece of Netta with me every day at home next to a coal hole cover, as you do, right? So that was Netta. Next one is TJ Electrics, a shop that I'm sure everyone is familiar with. It was around for 52 years, one of the longest running businesses on Church Street. It had a very, I always thought, a very charming old sign with an old phone number. I used to think that was their original sign from 1972 when they first opened, but we're going to see that was not the case. So TJ, I guess some of you might know the meaning of kind of the name TJ. So T was for Terence and J was for John. John George was the owner of the shop for many, many years. He was definitely a feature of Church Street for 5 decades. Just a few bullet points here just about the story of his life. I remember a few encounters with him. It was always great joy and kind of interesting to hear his stories. I regret not actually filming him. I always thought I should come back with a tripod and do it properly. Unfortunately, it was too late and he passed away. So when they started renovating the shop for the new occupant, which is a greengrocer, it was amazing that they actually found an older TJ Electric sign underneath it. So this is wood, and it's sort of hand-painted on wood. But this was a one-off event, and you're going to see why. Because not only did they find this sign, when they took it down, they found another sign for Ellen. Who's Ellen? Not only that, when they took this sign down, let's see what's underneath Ellen. Craftsmanship and work, yeah. But behind Ellen, Joyce Terry. This was a complete one-off. I've never seen anything like it. To actually uncover not 1 or 2, but 3 older signs, and they're actually documenting the whole history of the shop. So you've got the TJ, the present one, the older one, Ellen, and then Joyce Terry. So the whole history of the shop from the 60s to present day was captured and preserved in those signs up until that point. And again, you can see them all here. Interestingly, his name was actually Terry Joyce, ladies outfitter, and a bunch of us were kind of wondering, why did he went with like Joyce Terry? Was it to make the shop maybe sound more feminine? I don't know, maybe some sort of people came in and they said, hey, where's Joyce? She's on holiday. I don't know, and he just sort of carried that on, if that was his thing. So I was notified about that. I was at work at the time. I rushed over in the afternoon, and by the time I got there, all those signs were piled up at the back of the van. And this one was at the bottom. And it was the lovely people from Woody's local. So I just said, can I have this? And they said yes. Because I thought they're not going to keep it, it's going to go away. So they very kindly actually dragged it, rescued it, and then I was stuck with it. Now what? Do you call an Uber? And they were actually even nicer because they dropped it off at my house. And then you think, now what? Now, when I was taking it, I was also able to salvage a small piece of terry. So this is now my keyring. No, it's too big. But yeah, so this is the last thing that I could sort of salvage from that other sign. And this is, I gave it a good clean. You can see it's in two pieces. It's beautiful. When you look at the writing and all the detail in it, right? You can see kind of the brush strokes. And you think that all that life, 52 years of a shop, ending up being summarized in a piece of painted wood that was salvaged from the back of the van. I mean, I would just frame this in the kitchen if I could. Now, at the moment, like I said, it's safe. It's having a bit of a lion, if you like, in my loft. So hopefully keeping the rats company. But there's hopefully extremely exciting news that I don't want to kind of jinx by sharing just yet. But if it does happen and it looks very positive, it's going to be sensational as far as the future of this sign. So you're just going to have to sit and wait. But I'm not, usually I exaggerate. In this case, if it happens, it might even make it sort of national news. Could actually. Yes. Now, next one is on Allen Road, Payne's store. Allen Road used to have 50 shops. Today there are 4. Almost all of them were converted to residential properties, and you can see quite clearly where the shop front used to be. This was a residential property, and that's what it looked like. They did some work to the front, and then someone told me that they've actually uncovered an old shop sign at number 28. And with the help of a few other local history friends, we were able to piece together the history of that sign. And it was interesting because I then thought, okay, what's going to happen to it? Is it going to get removed or covered? So I made contact with the owners. There was a restraining order at some point, but I got them in touch with a friend of mine who's an assistant architect, specializes in preservation, and they started exchanging emails about what's the best way to preserve it, because luckily the owner said that they want to keep it. So that was good news. So they're not going to cover it, they're not going to remove it. And we just kind of followed their story, kind of how they were going to try to incorporate it into the new front, because they already paid for materials and hadn't designed for it. But luckily they managed to find a solution. So this was me just walking every morning at 6 o'clock, documenting it, looking a bit suspicious. And at the end, this is what it looks like today. So they put a bit of cover on it as well, just to protect it and save it. And this is a great example of someone that uncovers this beauty and then keeps it. Another example is from Green Lanes. So this is Perfection Fish Bar. So this was the shop as it was, a bit sad looking, but you can see there was a big cover. And as I explained, someone just messaged me and said, hey, in case you haven't noticed, in Green Lanes, this old sign was just uncovered. Lovely sign. You can see kind of the name and Fish Bar. Trying to kind of, I think someone else sent me this one. So you start getting different angles from different people, which is great. Please do that. Now, the amazing thing, again, like I said, are the stories behind those signs. It's not just a piece of wood. And when I posted it, there was this lovely message. Okay, so the son of the owner of the shop shared this on his account, and then he wrote this lovely message. I'll give you just a few seconds just to read it. We got in touch, and he said, look, I'd love to meet you at the shop, maybe tell you a bit about my dad and kind of the shop and all that. And we actually met with the woman that told me about the sign, so the 3 of us. Unfortunately, by that point, it was removed. And then we got this sort of plywood, I think, sort of instead. We were quite kind of disappointed and deflated, and we thought, what happened to the sign? We knocked on the door. We could hear people working, but they wouldn't answer. So that was really annoying. And as we made our way back, and I think we went down Burma Road, I think we noticed that there's actually an alleyway just behind the parade of shops. And we thought, you know what? Let's see if it's there. And it was. And it was. It was with all the rubble. And we could still hear the people working inside. And we thought, it's rubbish. They're not going to do anything with it. They broke it. It's now in pieces. And we thought, we're going to take it. And we were able to assemble it. Woo! Yes. And I'm also really happy to say that Mal is here with us this evening. Yeah, he's just there at the back. Yeah. So great for him to come. I mean, look at that smile. I mean, you can't fake that for the photo op. Definitely you can't. A few weeks ago, I told him about the event, that I'm going to talk about it, and I said, hey, what's up with that sign? Because he said they're going to have it on display in the house. He sent me this lovely photo. I love the fact that the sign is on vacation somewhere, just basking in the sun after all those years of being covered. But Mal actually said that they're planning to put it just on the ceiling there. So I opened Photoshop and I thought, what? Something like this. So I'm waiting for the photo of the actual one day, hopefully when that happens. But again, it's a great example of how something that was rubbish in some people's eyes was rescued and salvaged, whether it's from the back of a van or from a very kind of smelly alleyway. Someone has to do it. Next one is the vacuum shop at 60 Stoke Newington Church Street. So Anglo-Asian, I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with, on the corner of Fleetwood Street. So it used to be two shops, so it's like a double fronted. They were merged a long time ago. And about 10 years ago, when there was, again, sort of renovation of the shop, they uncovered this beauty, the vacuum shop. And you take a closer look, again, just the artistry of the sign writing. And when you look at the history of the shop, you can see Benjamin Zelig, the vacuum shop in the 60s. Now, there's always a story. And when I posted that photo in a Facebook group, the first comment was this one. And I messaged her just a few weeks ago when she sent me this lovely photo of her dad. So you can see Benjamin and his wife. Now, on this particular sign, you can also see the name of the sign writer. So George Brown. And earlier this month, I was walking down Neville Road, just before Barbald Road, and again, there were builders doing something, and I just noticed at the corner of the fascia that they were taking apart, George Brown signs. You can see it right there. I mean, you can obviously spot it from a mile away, right? Anyway, so this was an old kind of, again, Neville stores. It was like a drugstores. You can just see the letters barely kind of visible. Unfortunately, it's all been painted over within a matter of days. Now, it was really sad because after that set of messages, I went in, tried to talk to the builders. I said, look, the daughter of the owner, what are your plans for the signs? I can take it, she might come and take it, whatever. They didn't really communicate verbally or mentally at all. And the next day, it was on the street with a sign for sale for £300. And that was the last time I saw it. Yeah, if any of you have it, do let me know. So I've got about 5 minutes because I want to stick to time. So just to show you an array. So these were just like a bit of a deep dive into some of these amazing stories. And like I said, some of those signs were saved, some of them lost forever. But over the years, there were other kind of reveals that get us very excited. So just to go through a few of those. This is number 7, Church Street, a few years ago. So this beautiful sign was uncovered. In case you remember that shop, there was a lot of stories about I got my first guitar there, I got my first car there. Basically, anything you ever wanted, you could get at Shepherd's Market. And next door to it, Starlove, newsagent, confectioner. And again, the guys just look, what do I do with this thing? Do I take it down? Do I cover it? Can I get £300 for it? This is Church Street. So this is now Donatas. Used to be a confectioner, tobacconist, a long time ago. This is Stoke Newington Road. And again, sometimes they just appear for 10 minutes. 10 minutes, they just unscrew them and they're gone. Or 10 minutes and they just put the new plastic sign that's probably not going to last more than 10 years. This was on Cazenove Road, close to the High Street. This is a lovely story. So this is on Stoke Newington Road, just opposite West Hackney Church. So it was only these two pieces that were uncovered, as far as I know. So you can see they're sort of carved into wood. But what I loved is that the office that opened instead of the bike shop that used to be there, their new sign uses exactly the same design for 143. But I think this is a great tribute to the shop's history. This is 156 Church Street. It was Truffle Burger for a couple of years. Now it's fish and chips. But you can see that in some cases, unfortunately, the state of those signs is really, really poor. The paint is flaking, different sort of conditions. But you can sometimes trace those businesses in old newspapers and programs. So this was a toy shop, lending library, Dole's Hospital, you name it. But this is the actual sign at the back, by the way. I wouldn't take that home. I think it's haunted. A few others. So this is Stoke Newington Road. That's the double-fronted florist. This is the High Street. And you sometimes try to date them by the typeface, by the sort of business, right? If you know that it's, kind of like TV repairs, then you can kind of guesstimate a period. But a few of us always start looking at the directories and the census information. And okay, the daughter used to live here, and then the dad, and then this. It's really, really quite interesting when you go down those rabbit holes. This is Stoke Newington High Street. And I also like to try and spot those signs in old photos, as you do on a weekend. This is Albion Road. And also on Albion Road, someone sent me these, Wheelers. The thing is, they're really big, and you don't really appreciate that until they're actually at eye level. So even when you think about taking them home, I mean, it's quite tricky. Where are you going to put them? But my approach is let's try and save them first and then worry about it. So that's what I would recommend. Also on Albion Road is this one, the Wheat Bread. It used to be a beer shop. We thought for a while it may have been a pub, and that was a brewery, but we checked. There was no public house. There was no beer house. It was just a beer shop with all the brewery's advertisement. This is on Matthias Road. Okay, so this was Travis Perkins up until, 10 years ago. But when they closed and they took down all the Travis Perkins signage, they've uncovered the original Smith & Sons Anvil House, established 1864, rebuilt in 1931. And this is a real beauty because you're going to see, when you look closer, it's carved into the render. So it's not painted. It looks beautiful, especially on a nice sunny day, when you take a nice close-up. The building may likely get demolished at some point. I'm hoping that they're going to save the sign and incorporate it somewhere, even if it's in the car park or something. Let's see. In the last kind of minute that I have, just to share with you the last section, which I call teasers. So teasers are the ones that you walk past and you might see a bit of it and you think, what's the rest? This is in Stoke Newington Road. And for quite a few years now, I would walk past, and it's kind of funny because it was a modern hairdresser, but it was also a hairdresser since the late 19th century. And a few days ago, I walked past, and the people that are moving in to the shop going to use it as an office space, I think sort of like an architect's workshop. They told me that, I think tomorrow, if we're lucky, they're going to take down this new sign, and they're going to retain the old one. So keep an eye. I'm probably going to camp outside in a little tent just to see the big unveiling. But it's really exciting, especially because when we did the research, there were 4 different hairdressers that operated there. So there's now like a running bet in the group which name is actually going to be on that sign. So that's a close-up. Again, really beautiful. And everyone's like, hairdresser and what? And what? Another teaser was on Stoke Newington High Street. So this was AB Glass. And there was just like a day or so when they took one of those panels, and you can see this. I went there, they had the ladder. I asked, can I climb it? They said, you have insurance? I said, no. They said, go for it. And I was able to stick my phone and just get this. It was, even with the torch, whatnot, it was difficult. So I actually messaged the shop, the glass shop, and I said, what are your plans? They're going to take it down. If you do, try and take a few snaps. The last one that Tony and I were obsessing over was on Neville Road. And this was really obsessing because you can see that a few years ago I noticed that the paint was flaking off. And every 28 days on average, another piece of it would come off. And you almost want to time-lapse it and think, when are we going to see the rest of it? And we tried to guess it with like AI and, okay, R, O, and O, and this and that. Unfortunately, a few weeks ago, they just painted the whole thing. So we'll probably never know. And with that, I'll say thank you. Woo, we got there.